This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking Xal'atath. We are talking the old gods, we are talking the ethereals and the brokers, and we are talking Koresh. We are talking brand new lore dumps from 11.1.7, and we are talking Xal'atath's true form. Because what with one of 11.1.7's main features being the new Lorewalker Cho Lorewalking questlines, and what with 11.1.7 being on the PTR and testable, we now have a very big, very spoilery conversation to have about Xal'atath, her relationship to the old gods and the void and the ethereals and a whole lot more. So if you don't mind a big old red spoiler bot, then join us as we look at, in my opinion, seriously, some of the coolest and most revealing and revelatory questing in WoW for the last decade. Okay, go, 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 go. So the reason any of this conversation is possible is because 11.1.7 introduces Lorewalking. And, oh gosh, how do I explain Lorewalking? Well, you remember that video that we made like 4 years ago where we came up with the idea of the Path of the Curator, where players would be able to play through a curated version of the entire expansion storyline, complete with all the important story beats and relevant boss fights and cinematics, etc. Yeah, well, it's basically that, or at least the first steps of that. From level 10, players will be able to talk to Lore Master Cho in their faction capital or Dornagol and pick between, at the moment, 3 storylines to play through and experience, basically at level. Storylines which will allow you to play important moments from the now over 20 years of the game's story, and these are the 3 that Blizz have chosen to launch the feature with. And how do you think they chose them? It's a mystery, surely. So yeah, the story of Xal'atath is obviously very relevant to the War Within, and possibly the World Soul Saga as a whole. The story of the ethereals would certainly seem to be becoming much more relevant. I suspect that by the time you watch this video, there may even be news about 11.2 and where that patch will take place. And Arthas? Well, there's always room for Arthas, as Blizzard know all too well. You might imagine that there could be an element here of reminding players in the build-up to Midnight about what happened to Silvermoon and the surrounding zones when Arthas' scourge devastated it in the Third War. But you did just imagine that. It's definitely not the case. There is nothing here set around Silvermoon. No one even mentions it. But either way, it's obviously a neat and entertaining way to give players a chance to familiarize themselves or remind themselves of certain stories and characters in preparation for upcoming plot points. I don't know how Blizzard are going to go about adding to these, whether they'll cycle these 3 out completely when they have new ones more relevant to future content, or whether they'll keep them, build on them, and have all of their collection of Lorewalking questlines available at all times for players to enjoy whenever they want. And I definitely have some issues with a couple of choices that they've made on the Arthas storyline. You get the cool training quests from Shadowlands and the culling of Strathhome. You get the bit where you flash back to picking up Frostmourne and the Ghosts of the Forgotten Knights in Northrend. There's a new flashback bit of him having a big disagreement with his dad. You get to play through the whole of the Halls of Reflection dungeon and get the achievement if you've never done it before, which is awesome. But the choice to have you play as Arthas against the heroes of Azeroth at the top of Icecrown, which I think is a Shadowlands Quest 2, is just such a disappointing ending. Come on, Blizz, just whack us in the Icecrown boss fight. Let us see the dialogue and the cinematic. I get that most Arthas cinematics are from Warcraft 3, so they can't be included here, but it's insane to me that we don't have the option to watch the Icecrown ending cinematic here. And as a result, I think this could be way better, personally. 5 out of 10 for the Arthas questline, I'm sorry to say. However, the Xal'atath story, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is way better. It goes pretty much exactly how you'd expect. At first, you get the Shadow Priest artifact quest from Legion, which is obvious, but very, very awesome, because of course, this is the very start of her story in WoW, as you pick up the Blade of the Black Empire, but it's one that only Shadow Priests have ever seen before now. So with Lorewalking, finally, other lesser classes will get a chance to understand why we love her so much. You get to talk to Cho and hear the whispers that the Blade used to give you at various different locations throughout Legion, which is great, an amazing attention to detail here. And then it does what the Arthas questline couldn't be bothered to do and gives us the option to watch the Legion ending cinematic, which is fantastic. Well done. But even better than that is the in-game cutscene from the epilogue quests, where you release all of the power from your artifact weapons into Sargeras' sword in Xal'atath to neutralize it. An in-game cutscene which is no longer otherwise in the game, and which I lost my OG footage of years ago when an external hard drive corrupted. So to see this again is sheer nirvana to me. This is excellent. Then you get the quest from BFA, which everyone could play, where you find the blade again, gather up a bunch of void artifacts. Xali steals Inanis's body and toes as a sexy new elf avatar, and we take the artifacts and the blade to N'Zoth to kind of free him. BFA was pretty vague with the whole N'Zoth release, to be honest, but whatever. He releases Xali from the blade in return. Oh, and we get given the Eye of N'Zoth, but they kind of scoot over that bit. Shh. This is all great. This is all wonderful. This is exactly what you would imagine Lorewalking to be. This is already a solid 8 out of 10 retelling of Xal'atath's story pre-War Within. What I did not expect, though, is what comes next. Lorewalker Cho tells us that the Lorewalkers have discovered an ancient stone tablet with information about a huge battle in the days of the Black Empire itself. A tablet that gives us more information on the history of Xal'atath. And when you start the quest, we are transported back to Ny'alotha, the real Ny'alotha, the Black Empire Kingdom, not the pretend vision we get in BFA, although obviously it is the exact same map, you know what I mean. And before we get going, Cho tells us that the old gods have sent all of their forces to Ny'alotha to counter an unexpected attack from Xal'atath, which straight away, I know, we all have some questions, but trust me when I say we're going to have a lot more questions by the time this is finished, and we will get to them all, I promise. Then we take on the form of a faceless one in the service of N'Zoth, and we are told by our superior to kill Xali's forces and to enable gates that allow the other old gods, Cthulhu, Yogg-Saron, and Y'Shaarj, to join the battle and aid N'Zoth in the fight. So whatever this attack is, it is serious in the eyes of the old gods, and that's a lot of eyes, frankly, so that is indeed very serious. And then Internet, our boss tells us that the old gods are holding Xal'atath in the keep and that we need to go and help out. And you're thinking, wait, what? We're not about to see the true form of Xal'atath here, are we? Because we've seen her as a dagger, we've seen her as a sexy elf avatar, but we don't actually know what she looks like. We don't actually know what she is. Most of us assumed that her actual true form wouldn't be something we would ever see until, well, we take her on as a raid boss at some point, honestly. And Blizz are about to do this now? Holy shit, there is no way they're about to do this now. Are we gonna see Xal'atath? There she is. Internet, when I tell you this is the most excited I have been doing WoW questing for a long, long time, and the way these quests reveal to you that yes, actually, you are about to see Xal'atath, man, it got me. You first see her from a huge distance away, but then from up close. And can we just appreciate the scene that we are witnessing here, please? This is all 4 old gods in a room at the same time. The first proper appearance of Y'Shaarj in the game ever, and the true form of Xal'atath. This is one of the most monumental moments in Azeroth's history, and we are here for it, all because Loremaster Cho read some words in an old rock. Nice one. And I think it is worth reading through just about every line of this, right? This creature, Xal'atath, is not like Lord N'Zoth or his kin. Yeah, I know. We're going to discuss it in a minute, okay? She does not appreciate their power or our Black Empire. Show her the error of her ways. And then Y'Shaarj says, Xal'atath, you betrayed not only the strength of the Black Empire, but the very darkness that embraced you. As punishment for your craven selfishness, you will suffer in confinement. We then join in with the ritual that imprisons Xal'atath into the blade of the Black empire. Yasharaj says, you shall only watch this world as it gains untold power without you. You shall never lay claim to it. Xali has some choice words of her own though. Eternally pathetic. You are mere pestilence parading as lords. This is not the end of the game, only the beginning, and I have all eternity to play. Then finally, Yasharaj says, the last desperate cries of one who has witnessed the inevitable. Bish bash bosh, Xali's in a dagger, job done. But Cho says the tablet reveals more, that from within the dagger, N'Zoth started hearing her whispers. Consider what greatness could be yours if your siblings did not stand in your way. The offer stands. You need only reach out and claim it. And then the quest ends, and Lorewalker Cho sums up pretty much what we're all thinking. What is Xal'atath? Is she related to the old gods? What does she ultimately intend to achieve? And you know what, Cho? Those are pretty good questions. But before anything else, I just want to say how great this is. To add a new questline into this lore walking with new lore to enjoy, essentially doing some of the storytelling of the war within, is awesome anyway. But what new lore it is. The ethereal questline does something similar, if smaller scale, by the way, and we're going to talk about that later too. But this is incredible. 2,000 out of 10. This is my literal catnip. And when it comes to analysing what's actually going on here, I think a good point to start trying to pick apart all the new information is those questions from Cho. So, what is Xal'atath? Well, she's this, right? I think it's fair to say at this point that Alleria was correct when she told us Xali isn't an old god, because there's enough here to suggest she's really not. The Faceless General says she is not like our Lord N'Zoth or his kin, suggesting that she is not his kin, as in not an old god like them. When she talks to N'Zoth, she whispers, consider what greatness could be yours if your siblings did not stand in your way, not our siblings. So, okay, she is not an old god. Is she related to the old gods? The obvious answer would be that she is a being of the void, either a void lord or a void god or some other such entity. And that would definitely seem to be backed up by the model that they use for her here too. The old gods are fleshy and tentacly, as are their army. Xali is crackly and purpley, as are her forces. And don't forget, old gods are technically from the void, but they are not really of the void. They are fired into our reality by the void lords specifically to look for planets that contain a world soul, and then to corrupt those world souls to birth what Chronicle refers to as a warped titan, an unspeakably dark creature and instrument of the void lord's will. So the old gods are just scouts or viruses that don't even live within the void realm itself. They only exist in our reality, which makes them kind of like the Titans actually, who are representatives of the arcane or order realm, but don't live there. We don't even know if they've ever been there. They are both born and exist purely in our reality. We don't know what the arcane equivalent of void lords are, but they are not Titans. They're the arcane equivalent of the old gods in terms of role, if not necessarily power levels. I think there is some evidence beyond her appearance and that of her army to suggest that Xali is indeed a void lord, or at least from the void realm. You are mere pestilence parading as lords would appear to be a direct reference to the void lords here, and suggests that she thinks the old gods have ideas or designs above their lowly station. Before we run any further with this, let's ask another question. What does she ultimately intend to achieve? Because there is no doubt that Xali and the old gods are now on different sides, but it feels like they weren't always. If Xali is from the void, then presumably her and the old gods are supposed to be working towards the same ends, the corruption of Azeroth's world soul into a warped titan. But that is clearly no longer the case. So in my mind, the question as to why Xali and the old gods are fighting can be summed up as this. Who went off message? Did Xali change sides? Or did the old gods? I think there is some evidence that it was the old gods. She does not appreciate the power of our black empire. And Xal'atath's pestilence parading as lords line could definitely be interpreted as the old gods deciding that actually their black empire was super awesome and that they should just keep that instead of realizing the will of their bosses, the Void Lords. Maybe they just stopped returning the Void Gods' call one day, and Xal'atath was sent to sort them out and bring them back into line. This would be totally believable, honestly. It would explain how she had a whole Void army at her back and why she looks like a Void Lord. The old gods certainly recognized her threat. It would be unheard of for all four of them to combine forces like this in any other circumstance. They're generally described as being at each other's throats most of the time, but they were obviously scared enough to combine forces in this instance, so she could absolutely be a representative of their voidy bosses. Yes, but there are other lines in here which make me think that may not be the case. Yosharaj says she is being punished for her craven selfishness, which doesn't make it sound like the old gods suddenly started disobeying the void, but that it was Xal'atath who made moves, not in service of anyone, but for her own selfish reasons. Furthermore, he says, "You shall only watch this world as it gains untold power without you. You shall never lay claim to it," which suggests to me that the old gods are still doing the big void plan. They absolutely intend to give this world untold power to create that warped titan. And then there's the fact that Xal'atath is described as having infiltrated Ny'alotha. If she really was from head office coming to get some unruly employees back into line, would she do that by sneaking in? I think there is a stronger case here that Xal'atath is the rogue element, personally. Xal'atath is the one that went off message. Xal'atath is the one who stepped out of line. So now the question is, why? Maybe she just represents a different bunch of Void Lords than the one who made these particular old gods. We don't know much about Void society. Perhaps it's incredibly fractured, with as much infighting in the Void realm as there is between the old gods on Azeroth. So maybe Xal'atath is just a different opposing faction of Void Lord. It's totally possible, but I don't think so. Because of that craven selfishness Yosharaj mentions. Because of the line, "You shall never lay claim to it," referring to the world soul. Because when she claps back at the old gods in this scene, it is sassy AF. She is not like, "How dare you betray the Void Lords? I am just the first. They will come and destroy you." She's like, "Yo, this is the beginning of the game. I have all eternity to play." Which I know just seems a lot more lone wolf than representing a powerful collective. And also, and this is a bit random, but if she is really willing to wait all of eternity, then that might even suggest she doesn't care specifically about this particular world soul, because the corruption of Azeroth is on a time frame, right? She simply can't wait all of eternity to try and claim Azeroth, because the old gods will eventually warp it. So, okay, Xal'atath is a rogue void entity who infiltrated Ny'alotha, made a power play against the old gods and the rest of the Void Lords. But why? What does she want with the world soul? Well, I hate to do this, okay, but before we can answer that question, there's actually another possibility that we have to consider that this scene introduces. I think this scene is telling us Xal'atath isn't an old god, isn't a Void Lord, and isn't even from the Void realm at all. There is one line which, in my opinion, is the most important line in the whole scene. First, Evie wants to tell you something.
Hey guys, how's it going? Look, I'm gonna be straight with you. Last time I did one of these, we recorded it, and Tally looked at me and was like, "This is literally 5 minutes too long." What can I say? I'm just a big fan of Squarespace, who are sponsoring today's video, by the way. I just can't help it. So the name of the game today is Brevity, and thankfully Squarespace is jam-packed with features that make handling your site as efficient as possible. So first, one of the quickest and easiest ways to maintain your website, delete it. No, I'm serious though. We've burned through a lot of test sites in our time. Thankfully, the Squarespace dashboard makes managing and deleting them super simple. All you have to do is press delete, which I won't, sorry. It's the original Idris one. Are you kidding me? Next up, templates. The only reason we have so many test sites is because of how super fast and fun and easy it is to make a new one. Just answer a couple of questions and Squarespace will automatically recommend templates to suit your vibe. I said I'm into gaming, so I've been recommended a slew of site templates ranging from pro to playful, all suitably swishy and ready to go. Nice. And finally, in this brave new era of automation, you can naturally harness the power of AI to do some of the grunt work for you. Choose a few pages and sections, and a template will be created just to your liking. Add in a few keywords, and it will even generate images, copy, and an entire brand personality for you. I wonder if I can make it write my integrations for me. That's an experiment for another time. We're keeping it quick here today, remember? You know the drill. Go to squarespace.com/TaliusandEvitel, where you can get 10% off your first purchase of a Squarespace website or domain and make your own site in mere minutes. If you prefer or just hate efficiency, just waste a couple seconds typing in code TaliusandEvitel to get the same. That's squarespace.com/TaliusandEvitel. How was that?
2 minutes 19. I'll edit it. So the line is one of the first things that Y'Shaarj says to Xal'atath. You betrayed not only the strength of the Black Empire, but the very darkness that embraced you. And this line suggests to me two things. It suggests that Xal'atath was known to the old gods and worked with them up until she turned against them. Because if she just popped up with an army one day, it wouldn't be described as a betrayal of the Black Empire, would it? It feels like she needed to be involved with the Black Empire to some degree before that. But more interestingly is the darkness that embraced you. Now, maybe you disagree, but to me, this says that perhaps Xal'atath is not actually a void entity, a Void Lord, or indeed any other citizen of the Void Realm popping over to cause trouble. This suggests to me that she was originally something else, and that she has been embraced by the Void and became a valued champion of the Void, but is not of the Void. And I've got to say, this is not the first time that I've thought this. In Dragonflight's Time Rifts, there is one particular scenario where we travel to an alternative Azeroth where the Black Empire ultimately won, and find a chipped stone tablet written by a servant of the Ancient One, presumably an old god, and which tells the story of the writer being surprised when a family member of one of their tributes intended to be sacrificed to the Ancient One pleads that they be sacrificed instead to save their family member. And this shocks the writer because he didn't think the tributes capable of such higher thought, as he puts it, and considers training one as an experiment. The tributes in question would appear to be native life forms of Azeroth, something along the lines of Tauren or trolls. And this tablet always made me wonder, what if this happened in our reality too? What if the Faceless Ones, the servants of the old god, kept native Azeroth life forms alive and basically as cattle to use as servants or as sacrifices and tribute? And what if one of them was taken aside one day and trained as an experiment by, say, a high priest of N'Zoth? And what if that life form was indeed much cleverer than the priest had imagined their cattle to be, and became like a favoured underling who impressed and gradually rose through the ranks of the Faceless Ones, partly through sheer novelty and partly through ruthless cunning? What if that tribute became a powerful and respected servant of N'Zoth in their own right and established themselves as a leader over N'Zoth's other followers? And what if that tribute was Xal'atath? I've always loved the idea that Xal'atath isn't an old god or a void lord, but is actually from Azeroth, just favoured by the Black Empire and established in it through sheer force of personality and will. It would explain her intense specific interest in Azeroth and the fact that now she seems to be working both against the old gods and the main Void Lords. I guess when it comes down to it, I just love the idea of Xal'atath having a firmer connection to Azeroth than just, I want to destroy it or conquer it. And if I'm completely honest, much as I love this theory, I don't think it's what Blizzard are doing. I don't think Xal'atath is from Azeroth, but I do think Y'Shaarj's line about betraying the darkness that embraced you does point towards her being somewhere in our reality. reality. She is not of the void. She was embraced by it. Then she betrayed it. Of course, something you will all have already thought is that this model doesn't have to actually be her true form at all. It could be a placeholder or just what she looks like in Old God captivity. They could have just turned her into this form to easier control her for the moment. Totally possible. If she were a Void Lord, this could just be what Void Lords look like in our reality, but not actually in their own reality. That's possible too. But if she is from our reality, but not from Azeroth, where is she from? Well, the obvious answer is Koresh. There's another lore-walking quest all about the Ethereals, which starts with the quests in Outland that see you defeat Dimensius, the Void Lord who destroyed the ethereal home planet of Koresh. It also takes a close look at the Brokers from Shadowlands, and then adds some new stuff at the end, which explicitly link the Brokers and the Ethereals together. Manari from the Moor and Locust Walker know each other, and there is a very strong suggestion that the Brokers may originally come from Koresh in the same way that the Ethereals do. We are definitely going to find out more about that in the next patch, but Locust Walker also knows Xal'atath, so maybe she was from Koresh too. Maybe she was embraced by the darkness in the same way that Ashara was embraced by the Fel and tried to basically sell her planet to Sargeras. Maybe Xal'atath is the Koreshi who summoned Dimensius to her planet, who tried to sell the world soul of Koresh to the Void in exchange for its power. That didn't work out, it would seem, so maybe she has made Azeroth her next target and used her new status within the ranks of the Void to join the forces of the old gods that were already here before ultimately betraying the Black Empire to try and claim the world soul for her boss, Dimensius. Maybe it's Dimensius who is the rogue Void Lord in this scenario. Or maybe she decided that she is better than the Void Lords and, as an outsider, has no qualms about just effing them right off and trying to make herself a warped super titan by, I don't know, literally like consuming the world soul of Azeroth herself. I actually genuinely think one of those two is legit the most likely scenario at this point. But again, it's not the only remaining option, because there's always the possibility that Xal'atath is trying to save the world soul from the Void. If she was trying to, in Yashiraj's words, claim the world soul for herself, she could be trying to do something terrible with it. She could not. But what it definitely means she's doing is taking it away from the old gods and potentially away from the Void Lords too. And yes, she might well be doing that because she wants the power all to herself, but she could be just straight up rescuing the planet for some reason. I don't know how this one works yet, but it is definitely still possible. And if she really is working to protect the world soul in some way, that makes her functionally on our side. And how does that fit in with Iridikron and the World Soul Saga? And the truth is, I don't know. But this scene, this wonderful scene, has given us so much to work with and think about and chew over together, and I cannot wait to see where we end up in 11.2 and beyond. And now I've got to ask you, what do you think? What is the deal with Xal'atath? In Cho's words, what is she? Is she related to the old gods? And what is her ultimate aim? I want to see the absolute nerdiest, most in-depth, most tinfoily comment section that we have ever had under this video today, please. So go wild, I'm counting on you. And thanks for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us, thank our patrons who give their actual real-life money to make all of our work happen. And patrons, thank you so much, because without you, there would be a whole lot less Taliesin and Nevertell. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, blame the patrons, it's their fault.